Right now, millions of retirees across America are checking their bank accounts with one burning question. Is there really extra money coming this month? And if so, who qualifies? Let me cut through the confusion. There's been widespread talk about a $3,800 payment hitting accounts on January 15th, and while the headlines sound almost too good to be true, there's actual substance behind this story that every Social Security recipient needs to understand. This isn't about some government giveaway or stimulus check. What we're really talking about involves a combination of factors: the annual cost of living adjustment that kicked in this January, potential retroactive payments for those whose claims were delayed, and in some cases, accumulated benefits that have been held up in the system. But here's what matters most. Not everyone will see this amount, and the difference between getting what you're owed versus missing out often comes down to understanding three specific eligibility criteria that the Social Security Administration doesn't exactly advertise. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening, who qualifies, and the critical steps you need to take before January 15th to ensure you don't leave your money on the table. Let me be completely honest with you right from the start. When I first heard about this $3,800 payment, my immediate reaction was skepticism. I've been covering Social Security for years, and I've seen countless misleading headlines that promise seniors money that never actually materializes. But after digging deep into the Social Security Administration's recent announcements, reviewing payment schedules, and consulting the actual federal documentation, I discovered there's a real story here that deserves your attention. It's not quite as simple as everyone getting a check for $3,800, but for certain groups of seniors, this January payment could indeed be substantially larger than what they've been receiving, and understanding why this is happening could mean the difference between financial relief and continued confusion. The foundation of this story begins with something that happens every single year, but this year it carries special significance. The Social Security Administration announced a cost of living adjustment for 2025. And while the percentage might seem modest compared to recent years, the actual dollar amount it adds to your monthly check depends entirely on what you were already receiving. For someone who is getting the maximum Social Security benefit, this adjustment translates into a significant increase. But here's where things get interesting and where that $3,800 figure starts to make sense for certain people. If you're someone who filed for Social Security benefits late last year, perhaps in October or November, and your claim experienced processing delays, the Social Security Administration owes you retroactive payments. These aren't bonus payments or stimulus checks. This is money that was always yours, money you earned through decades of work, but it's been sitting in the system waiting for bureaucratic wheels to turn. Now, let me explain how retroactive payments actually work, because this is crucial to understanding whether you might be one of the people receiving a larger amount this month. When you apply for Social Security retirement benefits, you can request benefits for up to 6 months prior to your application date, as long as you've already reached your full retirement age. Many people don't realize this option exists. They think that Social Security benefits only start from the month they apply. But that's not true. If you reached your full retirement age months before you actually filed your application, you could be entitled to several months of back payments. The Social Security Administration doesn't automatically give you this money. You have to know to ask for it. And even when you do ask for it, processing these retroactive payments can take time. For some seniors who applied in the latter part of 2024, their retroactive payments are finally being processed now, in January 2025. And when you add up several months of Social Security benefits all arriving in one payment, you can absolutely reach numbers in the range of $3,800 or even higher, depending on your benefit amount. There's another group of seniors who might see unusually large payments this month, and these are people who experienced what the Social Security Administration calls an underpayment. These situations occur more often than you might think. Sometimes the Social Security Administration makes calculation errors. Sometimes their records don't properly reflect your complete earnings history. Sometimes there are issues with how survivor benefits or spousal benefits were calculated. In any of these cases, once the error is discovered and corrected, the Social Security Administration is required to pay you the difference between what you should have been receiving and what you actually received. These underpayment corrections can accumulate over months or even years, and when they're finally paid out, they arrive as a lump sum. Imagine if your monthly benefit should have been $200 higher than what you were actually receiving, and this error went undetected for 18 months. That's an underpayment of $3,600 right there, and when it gets corrected, it arrives all at once. Let me talk about another scenario that's particularly relevant this January. There are seniors who turned their full retirement age recently and who had been receiving reduced early retirement benefits. Once you reach your full retirement age, certain rules change. If you were subject to earnings test withholding because you were working while receiving early benefits, those withheld amounts might now be recalculated and paid back to you. The earnings test is something that confuses a lot of people. Essentially, if you claim Social Security before your full retirement age and you continue to work and earn above certain thresholds, the Social Security Administration temporarily withholds some of your benefits. But here's what many people don't realize. Those withheld benefits aren't gone forever. Once you reach your full retirement age, your benefit amount is recalculated to account for the months when benefits were withheld, and in some cases, you might receive a lump sum payment to correct for previous withholding. This is another pathway through which a senior might see a payment of several $1,000s this month. Now I want to address something important about timing, because January 15th isn't just a random date. Social Security payments follow a specific schedule based on your birth date. If you were born between the 1st and the 10th of the month, your payment typically arrives on the second Wednesday of each month. If you were born between the 11th and the 20th, your payment arrives on the third Wednesday. If you were born between the 21st and the 31st, your payment comes on the fourth Wednesday. However, retroactive payments, underpayment corrections, and other special payments don't always follow this regular schedule. The Social Security Administration processes these special payments in batches, and January 15th falls on a Wednesday, which is a typical Social Security payment day. For people who have been waiting for retroactive payments or corrections to be processed, this could very well be the day those payments arrive. But I need to be clear with you. Not every senior will receive a payment on January 15th, and not every senior who does receive a payment that day will get $3,800. What you receive depends entirely on your individual situation, your earnings history, when you filed, and whether any of these special circumstances apply to you. Let's talk about what you should actually do right now to make sure you're not missing out on money that's rightfully yours. The first step is to create or log into your My Social Security account on the official Social Security Administration website. This is absolutely critical. Your My Social Security account shows your complete payment history, your benefit verification letter, and any pending actions on your account. If there's a retroactive payment or correction being processed, you might see information about it in your account. I can't stress enough how important it is to regularly check this account. Too many seniors never create this account and then miss important notifications about their benefits. Setting up the account is free, it's secure, and it takes maybe 15 minutes. You'll need to verify your identity, which means you'll need your Social Security number, an email address, and you'll need to answer some security questions based on your personal history. Once you're logged into your account, look carefully at your payment history. Compare what you've been receiving to what your benefit statement says you should be receiving. Look for any gaps in payment. Look for any months where you should have received a payment but didn't. If you spot any discrepancies, document them. Write down the dates, the amounts, and any explanations you can find. This documentation becomes important if you need to contact the Social Security Administration to inquire about your payments. Speaking of contacting Social Security, I know this can be frustrating. The phone lines are often busy, wait times can be long, and sometimes you get different answers from different representatives. But if you believe you're owed retroactive payments Or if you think there's been an error in your benefit calculation, you need to be persistent. Call the National Social Security number at 1-800-772-1213. The lines are open Monday through Friday from 7 in the morning until 7 in the evening. The best times to call are typically mid-morning on Wednesday or Thursday. Avoid calling first thing Monday morning or right at opening time on any day, because those are the busiest periods. When you do get through to a representative, be prepared with your information. Have your Social Security number ready, have your Medicare number if you're enrolled in Medicare, and have a clear explanation of why you're calling. If you're calling about retroactive payments, explain exactly when you filed your application and whether you requested retroactive benefits. If you're calling about a potential underpayment, explain what you believe the error is and what evidence you have. The more specific and organized you are, the more helpful the representative can be. And here's a tip that can save you a lot of frustration. Ask the representative to document your call in your file. Ask them to note exactly what you discussed and what they told you. If you need to call back later, this documentation will be in the system, and the next representative you speak with will be able to see the history of your inquiry. Another option that many seniors don't know about is scheduling an appointment at your local Social Security office. Yes, you can actually go in person and meet with a Social Security representative face to face. For complex issues, this is often more effective than trying to resolve everything over the phone. You can schedule an appointment by calling that same national number or sometimes by scheduling through your My Social Security account. When you go to your appointment, bring documentation. Bring your benefit statements, bring any correspondence you've received from Social Security, bring your tax returns if the issue involves earnings, and bring any other relevant paperwork. Having everything in front of you and in front of the representative makes it much easier to identify and resolve issues. Now let's talk about some situations where seniors are particularly likely to be owed additional money. If you're a widow or widower who recently started receiving survivor benefits, the calculation of survivor benefits can be complex, and errors happen. Survivor benefits are supposed to equal 100% of what your deceased spouse was receiving or was entitled to receive, but sometimes the Social Security Administration doesn't have complete information about your spouse's earnings history, especially if your spouse worked for employers who didn't consistently report to Social Security, or if your spouse had a mix of covered and non-covered employment. If you suspect your survivor benefit is lower than it should be, you have every right to request a detailed explanation of how your benefit was calculated and to provide additional documentation about your spouse's work history if necessary. Similarly, if you're receiving benefits based on your own work record, but you were also married for at least 10 years to someone who earned significantly more than you did, you might be entitled to a higher benefit based on your ex-spouse's record. A lot of divorced seniors don't realize they can claim on an ex-spouse's record, and even those who do know sometimes don't realize that the Social Security Administration doesn't automatically give you the higher benefit. You have to apply for it. If you're receiving a retirement benefit based on your own work record but your ex-spouse had much higher earnings, contact Social Security and ask them to check whether you'd receive a higher benefit as a divorced spouse. If you would, they should switch you to that higher benefit and potentially pay you retroactively for the difference. Let me also mention something about people who are receiving both Social Security and a pension from work that wasn't covered by Social Security. There are provisions called the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset that can reduce Social Security benefits for people in this situation. These provisions are controversial and complicated, and the Social Security Administration sometimes applies them incorrectly. If you're affected by either of these provisions and you think your benefit reduction is too large, you should absolutely request a manual review of your case. Provide documentation of your pension amount, documentation of your earnings history, and ask Social Security to walk you through exactly how they calculated your reduction. Errors in applying these provisions can result in benefits being reduced by too much, and if that's happened to you, you're owed back payment for the difference. Here's something else you need to understand. Even if you're not owed any retroactive payments or corrections right now, this information is still valuable. Because it helps you understand your rights as a Social Security beneficiary. Social Security isn't a welfare program or a government handout. This is insurance that you paid for through decades of payroll taxes. Every dollar you receive in Social Security benefits is money you earned. You have a right to receive the correct amount, you have a right to receive it on time, and you have a right to a clear explanation of how your benefits were calculated. Too many seniors approach Social Security with a sense of gratitude or feel like they shouldn't question anything or make waves. That mindset needs to change. You earned these benefits. You have every right to make sure you're receiving everything you're entitled to. As we head deeper into 2025, there are other changes to Social Security that you should be aware of because they could affect your benefits in the coming months. The earnings test thresholds have increased, which means if you're under full retirement age and still working, you can earn more this year before your benefits are reduced. The maximum taxable earnings have also increased, which doesn't affect people who are already receiving benefits, but it's part of the overall Social Security picture. The cost of living adjustment that took effect this January is reflected in your payment, but make sure you actually see that increase in your account. Your January payment should be higher than your December payment was. If it's not, that's something you need to question. I also want to remind you to be extremely cautious about scams. Anytime there's news about Social Security payments, scammers come out in force. You might receive phone calls from people claiming to be from Social Security saying you need to verify your information to receive your payment. You might get emails or text messages with links asking you to confirm your banking information. These are scams. The Social Security Administration will never call you out of the blue and ask for your personal information. They will never threaten you or tell you that your benefits will be suspended unless you provide information immediately. They will never ask you to pay anything with gift cards or wire transfers. If you receive any communication that seems suspicious, hang up, delete the email, or ignore the text message, and then contact Social Security directly using the official number to verify whether there's actually any issue with your account. The bottom line is this. While not every senior will receive $3,800 on January 15th, there are absolutely seniors out there who are owed significant back payments, and this month could be when those payments finally arrive. Whether you're one of those people depends on your specific circumstances, but the only way to know for sure is to check your account, review your payment history, and if anything seems off, contact Social Security and ask questions. Don't assume everything is correct just because you've been receiving payments. Errors happen, processing delays happen, and when they do, you deserve to receive every penny you're owed with the appropriate corrections and retroactive payments included.